President Trump lost Michigan to Joe Biden by more than 150,000 votes. But in his latest attempt to overturn the election results, Trump is meeting with Michigan state lawmakers today at the White House. Here's what happened when one of those lawmakers got to Washington this morning.
We don't need you here. You don't need to be here. You can go home. Don't do this. Don't take people's votes. And the Michigan. Do you realize what you're doing is wrong? You realize what you're doing is wrong. Why are you doing this?
NBC News political reporter Monica Alba joins me now. Monica, if you thought you had a rough Friday morning, wow, you didn't have to deal with that. What could you tell us about the meeting today that came after that arrival?
Yeah, actually, Allison, we're told it's taking place right now, the president meeting with these state-level lawmakers from Michigan. We understand at least 2 of them were on their way to attend, but we're not sure who else is going to be in that meeting. And that's pretty significant because the White House is claiming this is not an advocacy meeting, in their words, that it's not a part of the campaign more broadly. But of course, it's the president, who considers himself still a candidate in this process, even though he has lost the election, who called for the meeting and personally invited them to come to Washington to sit down. And we understand he will likely pressure these 2 state GOP lawmakers from Michigan to maybe try to overturn the results in some way. But we actually spoke to somebody close to them who said they're prepared to come into this meeting and say, look, Mr. President, we're happy to pursue voter irregularities in the state of Michigan, and we're going to be exploring and investigating that. But we are not going to overturn the will of the people, which was that Joe Biden won the state of Michigan, and that is what has propelled him to be, in the eyes of NBC News and all the major networks, the president-elect of the United States. So it's unclear exactly what's going to come from that meeting, but the request was so unusual and it was so brazen because it was thought that he was essentially going to pressure these Michigan lawmakers to change or reverse course in some way. It comes during the course of this week where the president also called some Wayne County Canvass board members who had deadlocked initially in terms of certifying results of that particular county, home to Detroit, then changed their minds. Then after speaking to the president, rescinded that. If that all sounds very complicated, it's because it is. But bottom line, on Monday, we expect Michigan to certify their results where, yes, Joe Biden beat the president in that state by more than 150,000 votes, Allison.
Monica, the White House unit has some new reporting that the president wants to make the transition difficult for Democrats because he believes Democrats made it difficult for him. Do we know what he's specifically referring to there? Because as far as I can tell, Hillary Clinton conceded there was no holdup with the GSA during his transition, and President Obama invited the Trumps to the White House. So do we know what issue he's talking about here?
You're right, Allison. Those are 2 perfect points to make. And think about the timeline. Hillary Clinton conceded the election in 2016, the day after she lost to Donald Trump. And then current President Barack Obama back then invited incoming President Donald Trump just 2 days after that. So you look at this remarkable span of time that has now passed since the president currently lost this election, and the fact that he hasn't yet accepted that defeat. We're now learning from senior officials who are really telling us that the president remains dug in, defiant in this loss, and he does want to make things difficult for the incoming administration. And you can look no further, really, than the fact that the GSA, the General Services Administration, still hasn't formally ascertained or certified Joe Biden as the president-elect. That's something that the president, as a Trump appointee, the leader of the GSA, he could pick up the phone and he could call Emily Murphy. He could accept this, he could concede, and this whole process could move along with such important things hanging in the balance, like how a vaccine is going to be distributed in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic. But the president isn't doing that because he still wants to pursue some of these long-shot legal battles, even though we understand from all of our conversations with aides and allies close to the president, he does know deep down none of this will actually alter the outcome of the election. He's just trying to be a president who is going out with a fight.
Monica, the White House unit also reporting senior advisors are avoiding the Oval Office. What's going on there? Why?
This has actually been a notable and interesting shift over the last couple of weeks, Allison. The president has been spending a lot more time in the Oval Office as compared to the weeks leading up to the election, staying and working and making calls out of there into the night, 6, 7, 8 p.m. sometimes. That's pretty unusual. Normally, he would head back over to the residence in the early evening hours and continue to make calls or do whatever he would do in those later hours from there. And that's actually why you've had some really late evenings here with reporters wondering, is the president going to come out and speak? What can we expect from him? But we also now are learning from those who would normally be in the Oval Office, one senior administration official telling us that they don't want to participate in what, in the words of this one person, is a little bit more of a charade and a sideshow that distracts from the critical work that this person said the administration has actually done in the last 4 years. This person said they wish that the president would be more focused on some of the things and their perceived accomplishments, or talking about the pandemic and the health crisis. Yesterday, you had the vice president and members of the task force talking about it. They didn't take any questions, but at least they were the ones having a public-facing role. The president himself hasn't done that. He spoke about drug prices earlier today, but he didn't take any questions at that event either, Allison.
Monica, you said it. The president speaking about drug prices today, Pfizer's COVID vaccine. Is this the White House's attempt to shift the focus from losing an election to what's perceived as a win for the president? What's going on there?
Well, it certainly seems that they wanted, or the president maybe was the one with the desire to come out and speak publicly today. It was his first such event like that in front of cameras in more than a week. And that is what is also here quite striking, because he has been so out of view, even if he's been working behind the scenes and in the Oval Office, as we just talked about. He hasn't been coming out and engaging with reporters in the longest stretch of his entire presidency. It's been now 17 days since the last time he took questions from the White House press corps. Of course, what happened 17 days ago, it was Election Day, where he was still talking about what he thought might happen. But since his loss, and since we declared Joe Biden the president-elect, the president, the current one, hasn't answered any questions. He did have this event today in the briefing room, which was notable because originally it was scheduled to be in a different part of the White House, where he would have also had reporters in the room with him. But instead, he decided to move it to the briefing room, where more reporters and press members can be in attendance. But that actually didn't mean they were going to take any questions. And again, I'm just so struck by what happened yesterday and today. This vice president and president have still not taken any questions. They are talking about other issues. But this, the longer it goes on, the more pressure there will be. And really, quite frankly, Allison, there are so many questions. The top of the list, why haven't they accepted the fact that they lost this election?
Monica, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany giving her first briefing today since October. She downplayed concerns that the slow transition to the Biden administration could hurt a vaccine rollout. Can you tell us more of what she said in that briefing?
Yeah, and she was asked repeatedly why, if they do have the power to interact with the GSA, the General Services Administration, they haven't done so. And Kayleigh McEnany actually told reporters that they've done everything that they're required to do in advance of an election in terms of preparing for a transition. And as one reporter in the room smartly pointed out, okay, but that had to do with everything before November 3rd. We're now 2.5 weeks out from that. Why have you not allowed this process at least to proceed? And it's exactly that question of vaccines, distribution, how that's going to work, that is really at the heart of the matter here, because the incoming Biden administration wants access to those briefings so that there can be a smooth handover. That is so important here as these cases, hospitalizations continue to rise. Of course, the vaccine is wonderful news. Everybody can root for that. But if we can't get it to people, it's not vaccines that save lives. It's the actual vaccinations, as you know, Allison. So this is really still holding up that important process.
Yeah, Monica, big difference between having a vaccine candidate ready and actually getting a vaccine to Americans. Thank you so much for all of your great reporting throughout the weekend today. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.